Hello, and welcome back to another week of Crunching Your Growth. We have, as usual, another exciting entrepreneur. Tonight, we've got Tina Jennings, who founded Soul Sister Sport. She's got a great story about why. And I believe this month is Women's Empowerment Month. And so this is such a fitting I think, show because she's really talking about serving confidence, empowering women through activewear. She's got I'm not going to be able to explain the whole thing. She can do it better, and we'll bring her on. But she's basically transformed her passion for tennis, community, empowering women into a thriving activewear brand. It's pretty interesting, and so we're going to talk to her. She's got an entrepreneurial spirit, even though she came from, believe it or not, the banking background. She's got a pretty good entrepreneurial spirit, and she's in the process of getting going, and I think it's going to scale pretty well from what I've seen. So let's bring her in, and she'll be able to tell us more about who she is, what she does, why she did it, and how she got to where she is. So, Tina, welcome. Thank you for taking the time to be on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Hi.
Oh. So, tell us. Um, you've started this later in life, which is a great thing. I never think there's a time when you can't start a business. So that's a great thing. But take us back, what a little bit about your history, what you've done in the past, and how you got to this point where you decided, I'm going to take the leap. I want to start a business. I'm going to start a brand, and let's go from there.
Well, yes, you hit the nail on the head. It's later in life. I started as a child growing up at the beach in Southern California,
Nice.
where I loved to spend the entire day playing beach volleyball, jumping in the water, and just hanging out with my friends and getting all the sun that I could possibly tolerate, more than I could handle. So by the time I was in my early 20s, I was already covering up and trying to avoid the sun. I've been on my own since a very young age and had a ton of different kinds of jobs, starting off as like a dishwasher and a janitor, um, then moving on to banking. Uh, and then I got married relatively young and had children, went back to school to complete my undergraduate degree and go to business school. Then, when I got out of business school, as you mentioned, I went into finance and I was in finance for about 25 years, which I just left in 2023. And it was good timing because my job relied a lot on those low interest rates. And I didn't realize, until like after it was done, that I had just benefited so much for all those years from those low rates and
Yeah.
really was able to make a living. So during all of that time, after I finished playing volleyball at the beach and grew up and had children, I couldn't be at the beach all day. So I started playing tennis. And I've always been the person with the long sleeves and pulling my socks up to cover my legs and trying to wear sunscreen. I'm putting on the 50 and the 100 and still getting burned. And so it was just really frustrating not being able to find the athletic wear that I wanted. And there were other brands bringing out sun protective wear for
Yeah.
athletes and things. And
Yeah.
whenever I wore them, I felt like I was wearing a wetsuit and it felt too hot because I've been in California all this time. So like in 2019, actually, a friend of mine, a tennis friend of mine, and I both, unknown to each other, ordered the exact same pair of skirted leggings. And we both complained to each other that we could never wear them even one time because the quality was so poor.
Really.
And so we're searching Etsy and eBay and Athleta and Lululemon and all the brands and couldn't get what we wanted because what we really like to wear for tennis is a pair of leggings with a skirt over it because we like the functionality of the tennis skirt and then we like the coverage of the leggings.
Right.
So we just thought, like, how hard can it be? So she helped me design the first pair based on like a 20-year-old pair I had that I liked, and found manufacturing, got it made, and just started the entrepreneurial struggle, which has been so great. Like, I am so happy now having my own business, even though it's difficult, definitely not making the money I was making in banking. There's still hope. And with all my kids, I have 5 kids, and I just really keep saying to them, like, "Do you have an idea? Like, you should start your own business. Like, this is the way to go." I mean, it's just so freeing after all those years in banking and all of the regulations and things that you had to be so careful that you didn't violate any rules, to just make all the rules yourself.
Yeah.
It's just been great.
I'll tell you, I've interviewed, coached, mentored. I can't even tell you hundreds of entrepreneurs throughout my life. Maybe even in the thousands. I don't know, but every single one says the same thing. I didn't. Nobody does this for the money. Nobody does this, because they want to be famous. They do it because of the freedom, and
Right,
even though the struggle, which is real, even though there's a struggle, it's a rewarding struggle because certainly I've been through businesses, startups of my own where I haven't taken salaries for years, 2 years, whatever to get it going. I mean, we've had entrepreneurs here talking about how they didn't take salaries for years, and but they didn't care. It was very freeing, and you could see progress going. And as long as you saw that progress, you were happy. So I understand exactly what you're saying, and I do encourage people to start their own businesses. I think you're never you're never too young and you're never too old to start, in my
right.
opinion.
I mean, I wish I was a little younger so I could just feel a little more relaxed, like, 20 years I'll just take. So I feel a little time pressure. Oh, sorry, I'm jiggling the table.
Well,
But
you should get that out of your head because there is plenty of time.
thank you. Yeah, and it's just so, I think it actually is a bonus for me because I think I would like to just sit back and take things easy sometimes. That's
Yeah.
probably one of my weaknesses, is that I'm like, "Oh, everything's fine." And I really need to stay on top of things and really keep pushing for growth and pushing for more products and pushing for my community that I'm trying to serve. I mean, and that's one of the best things about this also, is just the people that buy the leggings and love them and say, "Oh, I've been looking for these for years." I mean, that's just the best feeling ever.
It tells you something about an underserved market, and I would imagine. Obviously, I can only comment on menswear. I can't really comment on women's wear, but I can imagine. I do have a wife, 4 daughters, and I do have sisters and a mother. So I do understand some things about women, and I do understand that there are things that women want or things that women feel uncomfortable wearing, and obviously the cover up part because of all the discussion about sun and UV rays and cancer, skin cancer, and things like that. People are concerned about it. But you're 100% right. The products that are out there, even for men, products that are out there are very they're restrictive. They make you hot, and I can I used to do triathlons for years, and I did well. I'm very familiar with how a wetsuit feels, but I didn't like the long sleeve shirts and long pants because it was just it got me too hot, and so you wind up being out there in virtually nothing for a while, and yeah, I can understand it.
Then you get too much sun, and then you're like, "Oh, shoot."
You get too much sun, and I never really thought about it until a couple of 10 years ago or 15 years ago because I'm Italian and I have a dark skin, and so I don't really burn. I I tan really dark, but it really doesn't matter. You can still have problems, but I never thought about it. It was, until my wife started hounding me about it. So
Right, right. Well, yeah, and the thing is, our a lot of our materials are very, very lightweight,
yeah,
and they don't have any chemical UPF in them. So people question whether or not they're sun protective enough, but go ahead and try to get sunburned wearing them.
yeah,
I mean, even if it doesn't say like UPF 50 or whatnot. It's very difficult to get sun damage when you're wearing material over your skin.
Yeah. I did the Baltimore Marathon a couple of years ago, and they gave out the premium was this long sleeve shirt,
Mhm.
and it's the only shirt, the only long sleeve shirt that I can wear year round because it's I don't know what the material is, and I can't find another one like it, but it's long sleeve, but it's lightweight and it's breathable.
It breathes. It's probably a mesh.
Yeah. It doesn't look like a mesh, but it might be just tight mesh, but it's I love it. It's a great shirt. And the other one I have that's great, which they don't make anymore, from when I used to cycle, I have this long sleeve cycling shirt, cycling jersey, from this brand that unfortunately went out of business. And I really like them because they had the rights to put like um, Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon image on it, or the Grateful Dead, or a couple of things like that. And I have them still, but they're getting on in years.
Wow. Yeah, I love to find what people have loved previously that they can't find anymore and see if there's a way we can incorporate some of that into our styles. Because I
Yeah,
love it tried and true. You you try something on, you think you're going to like it, and you get home and you never know if it's going to be that one that you just turns out to be a favorite.
yeah, exactly. It's exactly what. So how's business been going? What do you think? What do you think some of your roadblocks have been, or some of the early learnings? Let's say.
There have been some early learnings. Well, I think probably the biggest roadblock for me is my product is not for everybody. There's a huge segment of the market that is perfectly happy just wearing a tennis skirt or just wearing leggings. So there are a lot of people that see my product and they're just like, I don't need that. But then there's this other segment that loves it and wants it and doesn't know about it. So getting the word out is the biggest challenge. And early on, I was able to get our stuff into the store down at Indian Wells for that tournament. That was a lot of good exposure. One year, my I had a partner that I just bought out last year. She and I ran the store at a big tennis tournament in San Jose. Um, and so we got so we're getting exposure any way we can. We are also doing some paid advertising. I know you mentioned that it's just a really tough row to hoe, but there are. I am working with a marketing person that's highly targets certain segments of the market, and we've had some success with that recently. But this has been years of trying different things. And I feel like we're just starting to turn the corner now in an exciting way where we're getting a lot more customers. The one great thing about our product is 30% of our customers buy one or two and they get it and then they order more.
Yeah,
And I have people do that all the time because if they're playing tennis 3 or 4 times a week, they want 3 or 4 pair because it really is if this is what you like, it's what you want every time.
sure.
And then we also are able to serve the plus size market. And that has been a surprise because I just when you're first getting into this and I hadn't been in the apparel industry, I'm like, which size, how do I allot my sizes over a certain style? And I'm just increasing my X, 2X, 3X, 4X every single time. Those are the fewest returns that we get. They and someone will come in and buy a 3X and then they'll buy five more.
Yeah,
And so that is really heartwarming to be able to just serve a market and be able to have people that really appreciate your product at that to that extent. Um, and so really I think but your question is like what have some of the obstacles been or kind of right now I think the obstacles are expanding our product base. I mean we don't have a ton of shirts. um, Shirts are hard.
yeah,
I really knew what we wanted with the skirted leggings and so we really I think nailed that on the design and got a design that most people really love. I'm coming out with another design. There, one of the things I read before I started this business was Shoe Dog by Phil Knight.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's like such a good book. And when I started the business, I was thinking, well, at least I'm not doing shoes where everybody's feet are so different. But guess what? Everybody's hips and legs are very different.
Yeah.
So it's fun and interesting and challenging to try and find things that can fit all the people that want this product. So we are the royal we, I am working on a design. I'm in the middle, almost coming out with a more flared skirt because the skirt I have now is very fitted and tight. A lot of people love that because there are pockets on the sides. You can put the balls in the pockets. You can put your phone in the pockets, but you could also stick it under the skirt because the skirt is tight enough. But I'm coming out with a flared skirt for people that are curvier.
I did fashion, athletic leisure stuff, and some other things on the shopping channels, QVC, HSN, years ago, and it's a very um, it's a very challenging segment because, like you said, people are different. Everybody's different, and what looks good on somebody who's a size 4 or 5 or 6 doesn't look the same on somebody who's a 12 or a 13 or 14. And so, you have to try and design around that. But it's challenging. It's challenging. But I'll tell you, you said a couple of things that are interesting in the fact that it, you know there's nothing wrong with having a really niche product. Um, I know plenty of successful companies that started out with a really, really niche product and then expanded from there. Even Under Armour, when Kevin first started that business, he started that business with just undergarments,
Right.
a t-shirt and shorts, and that's what everybody thought it was going to be. And then he started expanding. They do socks, they do shoes, they do sunglasses, they do all kinds of things. Some so I think having a niche product or starting out with a niche product, there's nothing wrong with that. But knowing who your customer is, knowing where that customer is, that's the challenge. Because once you know exactly who your customer is, exactly where they are, then you can really get focused with advertising, and that's when you can get really good returns. I'm not opposed to running ads, but I think entrepreneurs, what I see too many times is they start out with their product and then you just start running ads, and you're just going to waste a lot of money until you really have the customer figured out where they are and where you're targeting them. I'm a big fan of using micro influencers, not big influencers, but micro influencers. Big influencers, if you can get them, and if you can do it, if they do it because they want to do it, right? I'll
Right.
give you an example. There's a hot sauce company called Yellowbird that out of Texas, and they were a small, just a small producer of hot sauce. And then Jesse James, who does those motorcycles, he builds motorcycles, and down in California, he had a television show for a while, and he liked it, and he started talking about it on social media. They didn't pay him or anything. He just started talking about it, and that really launched them. It helped them tremendously. So it's never never be afraid to shove your product, if you go to these tennis tournaments, to give it to some of the tennis players, because
Right.
all it takes is a Serena Williams or somebody to go, I really like this, I found it, I really like it, and the next thing you know, you're flooded with orders.
She has her own
I know, I
athletes
know,
show.
I know. I know.
But I did have someone call this morning about her order because she was questioning. It was like out for delivery, and she was hadn't received it yet. And I was talking to her for a minute, and she said that her tennis coach had told her to get it.
Oh yeah,
And I was like, "Great, your tennis coach sounds very wise."
yeah.
And then I also had the ladies that were in Turkey for the World Championships recently. They had the seniors, which are the people that are over 35.
Yeah.
So there was a women's team from the US over 40. They all wore my leggings. And then also the Australian team for the women over 45 wore my leggings. So
Oh, there
I
you
just
go.
felt like that's the best endorsement is these people are professionals and they're wearing this because of the performance.
Do you have your logo on them?
Oh yeah. But I don't know who's watching the senior tennis
It
championships.
doesn't, what
I'm
you
going to
want.
put it on my social media though.
Yeah, I would do that. I would use that on my social media, but, the other thing I would do is I would get all the names of the Australian team and the US team, and I would, email them and say, "Hey, I noticed that you're using my product, and, I really appreciate it," and tell them your story, "You're starting out, and they'll post something, you
Oh,
know?
they did post some. I mean, what the captain of the US team has posted and also the captain of the Australian team.
Yeah.
They're these us women like to stick together.
Yeah, that's it. No,
Right.
that's the way to get it going. I mean, you really have to be, you really have to be, I think, a little scrappy in the beginning with, with getting the message out. I'll tell you a quick story. Uh, I had I had started this shaving company. We had been in the beauty business with, a model named Carol Alt. We built a beauty line, and skincare and such, and we did that, worldwide. We were in, Canada, US, Italy, etc. And
Wow.
we started thinking about getting into women's shaving. Um, wound up that while we were still putting that together, wound up selling the company, and but I still wanted to do shaving, and we wound up starting it, men's and women's, and for a year we struggled. I mean, we were doing everything we could have possibly done, and we just weren't getting it out there. We were getting sales, but it was like pushing a rock up a mountain, and we were just trying to get to the top so it would start rolling down. And I'm a sports fan. I love baseball and football. And I woke up one morning. There was a pitcher, used to pitch for the San Francisco Giants, called and he had an epic beard, Brian Wilson,
No
and
way.
he had an epic beard, and it was a rift in MLB because they wanted him to shave the beard. He wasn't going to shave the beard, but he was a great pitcher, and he had gotten an injury, and he got Tommy John surgery. He was going to be out for a year. They traded him to the Dodgers, so it was the first time that he was going to pitch in a year, and there was a lot of discussion about it on uh, all the sports publications online, and so I got up that morning and I was reading the story and it dawned on me, hey, why don't I see if he'll shave with our razors? And so I sent a message to his uh, management saying, I will pay Brian Wilson $1 million to shave with our razor. and, so, and
Did you have $1 million?
no, no, he wasn't. Look, it was a stunt. I
You're
knew he
making me
wasn't gonna.
nervous.
I
As a banker.
listen, if he had said he would do it, I would have gotten $1 million somehow. But I said, all I wanted from them was to say we'll discuss it with Brian. That's all I needed because now I could legitimately say I'm in discussions with Brian Wilson to shave with our razor for $1 million.
Right.
That was the pitch, right? So once they sent me that, I had a legitimate email from his management saying that. So I gave it to the PR firm, and they pushed it out. And the next thing you know, it just exploded because we got on, you know, all the sports shows, everything. Everybody was calling us and asking, "What are you crazy? You're paying a guy $1 million just to shave?" People were sending us pictures on social media of body parts saying, "I'll shave this for $10,000. I'll
Oh
shave this
dear.
for 5,000." People were mad at us. We were getting screamed at. They were like, "How could you give a millionaire $1 million when I can't pay my electric bill?" And it blew up. And I mean, everywhere, France, people in, the sports shows in France were calling us, Japan. And so, This went on for about 10 days, and it launched us. We started getting huge amounts of orders, and it just
Wow.
started going. And then things started to trickle down after about 10 days. We didn't get as much exposure. We were out of these things don't last in the press. But then TMZ caught Brian Wilson coming out of a gym in LA, and they said, "Are you going to take the $1 million to shave your beard?"
Oh,
And he said, "I'm not shaving my beard for anybody, any amount of money." And it just exploded again because the people were mad. They were like, "How could he turn down $1 million? What is wrong with people?" And so, it was about a month that it lasted in total, and that really was the thing that pushed us over the edge. And so, we're always trying to be bold and try and figure out a way to break through the clutter, and that's what it did, right? It didn't cost us it didn't cost us anything but time, right? The PR firm cost us money, but not huge. And so that was really you couldn't buy that kind of advertising. And so, I encourage people to think about how to get, what they can do. Dollar Shave Club did a great job with their video, and it went viral. There's guys out there that do all kinds of great things. Um, that to get exposure and to get attention that doesn't cost a lot. My friend Jim James, he has a podcast called The Unnoticed Entrepreneur, and he's a big fan of stunts because he's been using them all his life in
mhm.
launching different businesses. And so, just ways to get exposure for your brand and product. You sort of have to be bold,
And a little creative.
and a little crazy. You know,
Yeah.
you have to know
100%.
that, but, you have to be careful because you don't want it to be something that's divisive or something that's going to, yeah, we had people screaming at us about the $1 million, but you're gonna expect that. But we didn't do anything that was gonna harm anybody. It wasn't dangerous. It didn't do anything that anybody could construe as being, mean or nasty, so
Right. You need to be cautious that you're not offending anyone.
yeah, you don't want to offend people, and it was just fun. I mean, to me, it was. But yeah, you have to. We've done some other things over the years, and we've led our clients. We've led our clients down some paths to do some things that helped out to break through the clutter. Because all that does is everything else that you're doing just becomes amplified. Your SEO, your ads, everything just becomes amplified when you get that kind of coverage. So.
Right. Right. And then once you get all those customers, like with a shaving brand, they're going to be repeat customers.
Oh yeah, then our retention was great. We had like 67% retention. Our long-term value of customers were phenomenal. So yeah, it's definitely great. And then once you have those customers, you can get those customers to, you give them a nice referral program and let them get their friends and family involved. And yeah, that's really the only thing that helped us. And it was great. It was a lot of fun. I love doing stuff like that. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, it is fun. I mean, one of the things I'm enjoying the most right now is really being able to decide who I want to work with
Yeah.
as far as consultants or, just there are so many great people out there and it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's just a lot of fun to be working with people and um, being able to find people that are excited
Yeah.
as I am and really want to take it to the next level and just build that kind of team. So I mean, there's so much about it. I appreciate it. I'm trying to convince my kids because they just want to plug themselves into another company and be, they don't want to have to think about everything. They haven't gotten there yet, but it is very satisfying to be the master of the universe and just be making all the decisions. And then you've got all the blame, but I've always been happy to take the blame.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
kids,
Yeah.
my
It's
kids will say like, it doesn't matter if it's your fault, if it's wrong, it's
yeah.
bad.
It is interesting. I my one daughter is the only one I think who's going to really be entrepreneurial. The other ones want to, you know, get a job. and
Mhm.
and their mom is very entrepreneurial as well. And so but I think that some of it is a generational thing. But sometimes things happen. I thought when I was younger, I had I grew up in the in the restaurant business in New York, and I thought my path was going to be working for somebody who owned restaurants. I thought that's what it was going to be. Then I went to college, and I was working in restaurants in Miami, and I decided this is a tough life, man. You're getting out of work. It's 1 o'clock in the morning, and then nothing good happens when you're with a bunch of people getting out of the restaurant business at 1 o'clock in the morning. And then the next thing you know, you're strolling in at 6 a.m. and you got a final. So I learned pretty early that I didn't want to do that. But I did want to be around food because I did understand it. So my first venture in life was I built a specialty food store, which was an unmitigated disaster. It was terrible. It
Where
was
was it?
in Westchester, outside of the city in
Mhm.
Westchester, and it was a great area. I mean, it was great. Uh, that wasn't the problem. The problem was me. I wasn't a good leader. I thought I knew more than I did. It was a total breakdown in process management. I wasn't. I didn't have the skill set that I thought I had, and so I sold it after 3 years of pain and suffering, and I sold it, and I took the money, and I went back to graduate school. And I didn't do that because I thought going to graduate school was going to fix everything. I did it because I needed to think differently, and that it did give me. And then I got involved with a specialty food chain in Washington D.C. because I went to the University of Maryland for graduate school, and then I was more of an entrepreneur in that company, but and then I went on to do some other things. But that first venture was a painful one. Was a painful one, but you know.
Yeah, because there's a lot of it's I mean, it's tough. There's a lot on the line, and it's all up to you to make the decisions, and that's a difficult decision to decide to sell.
Oh, it wasn't difficult for me at that point. I was done. I realized that I was in over my head. I made some stupid decisions, and I was young enough. I was 27, and so it was all recoverable. And I tell entrepreneurs all the time, people that get nervous about taking the leap, or I always say the same thing. Look, that you're not going to die. The worst thing that happens is you lose money. You're not going to die. And you're always going to have a place to live. You're always going to be able to find a job. It may not be ideal, but you'll be fine. And it was recoverable for me, but I was just so disappointed in myself. And I keep the lessons from that first one, I still carry with me today. And believe me, there's been other failures along the way because I've had some good ones, but the rear view mirror is littered with some bad ones too. And but that first one, there's still a lot of learning there. So
So now you're doing consulting.
no, I have an agency. We don't consult. Well, I take that back. So I have an agency, and we've been doing that for about 12 years. After we did the shaving brand, one of our partner in that and the supplier was the second largest razor company in the world. And after we sold, they kept that business. We sold the market got really hot because everybody wanted to get into razor business. It was weird, and and it really was. And
It's like, get rid of your hair.
yeah, we had John Scully. Well, Harry's came out, and Dr. Dollar Shave Club came out, and then all these competitors, and then these guys we just started getting offers. And John Scully he was an investor. He was on the board. Michael Phelps was an investor. He was on the board, and some other folks. And we started to get offers, and everybody was like, "You got to take one," And then after after we sold, the company that was supplying us called me up and said, "Look, we like what you did. We don't understand direct to consumer. We don't understand anything about that. We sell to supermarkets, drug, club stores, super centers. We do private label for these guys. We don't ever talk to the end user." and you seem to have a good handle on direct to consumer. We don't even have websites that are direct to consumer. And so that was how we started Crunch Growth, because they said, we need you to do this, 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 and this. And I said, I'm not a consultant, but here's what I'll do. And I just hired back some people that worked for me, and we started doing marketing. So we're a full service agency. We do branding. We build websites, host websites, manage websites. We do all e-commerce marketing, advertising. We do connected TV advertising. We can advertise on any channel. We do, just it's full service. We manage social for people. We can do video, short form video. We can do in house long form video. We have partners that we work with, one on in California, one locally. And we have some creative teams that we work with for really intense stuff. But and then me personally, on the other side, I do coaching for people. I do mentoring. I have a structured program for growth. There are a lot of brands that we work with that can't get past that sort of 10 or 15 or $20 million, trying to get to 50, and they just don't understand how to do it. So I do that, but I don't necessarily I consult. I more mentor and coach and build programs for people to help them get from A to B. I guess
Yeah.
that's sort of consulting. But
I love the direct to consumer market.
oh, so do I. So,
There are so many of my customers that I know are in places. I lived in Ithaca when I was in business school, and you can't just go shopping and buy clothes. I became a big LL Bean shopper when I was there. It's very cold.
yeah,
Um,
I'm
and I see
familiar.
that's what my customers are doing.
Yeah.
They're just not able, and especially tennis wear, because there aren't a lot of stores where you can just go and have a great selection to try on, which is a bummer because people want to be able to try things on. But we try and make it very simple for people to exchange and try different things and send things back and forth. And that's just one of the challenges that's easy to overcome. It's not one of the bigger challenges.
Well, you always have high returns in fashion. Always. I mean, you have to sort of build that into your model, because my experience, again, I can only speak from my experience. We did three fashion lines, and you everybody's different, right? Everybody has a different body style. So they might buy three or four sizes, try them all on when they get home, and then send the other three back. And
Right,
yeah, but that's
right. And
sort of, it's like shoes, right? It's the same thing.
yeah, it's also really tough to decide what type of models to use, because a lot of brands want to be very inclusive and have models across the whole spectrum. But, and we do that on our website. And at the same time, when I'm shopping, I was shopping for a dress to wear to a wedding a year or so ago. And I was looking online. And even though I am older than those models, when I was looking at them, I was like, that's about how I would look in that dress.
I
So we have some picture inside our head of what we're gonna look like that may not be completely tied to reality. But so you want to give people the look that there is in their head also.
we're all aspirational, so we don't see what we are. We see what we want to be.
Right.
And so the thing that I loved about the shopping channels were, and we still I still love that business, and it translates into what we do with connected TV, because we understand how to script things. It works well with social selling. I mean, we all the training that we had doing, direct response TV and shopping channel work was phenomenal. But one thing we learned there, we had this one person, this one designer who designed for women's to hide women's icky bits, as she called them, right? As you got older and your body changes, and she wanted models. I'll never forget, because it was almost a big argument there. And the folks at HSN that put on the shows were like, no, you want these models. You don't want those models because women aren't going to respond to those models. They're going to respond to these. And we went out in the first show with sort of half and half. And it was quite evident because you get immediate feedback. It was quite evident that women, like you said, they don't want to see what they are. They want to
No.
see what I'm going to look like when I put this on because that's how I feel. I feel like I'm a size 5, even though I'm a size 12.
Well, and we'll put someone on that is a size 10,
Yeah.
and everyone thinks that's a 3X or a 4X.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're just, they're so used to seeing the zeros.
I know. I said that to, yeah, I don't understand. My wife and I talked about this not too long ago. I said, I don't understand how you can be a 0 or a double 0. It makes no sense to me from a sizing
It's
perspective
very, very
because
small.
I'm a 0 or a double 0. I don't get it. You have to be a 1 or a 2 or a 3. How could you be a 0 or a
A
double 0?
zero.
That just says I'm anorexic and I'm ready to die.
There's nothing here.
Yeah, there's absolutely
And I
nothing here.
tell people, I'm like, our zero is a true, I call it a true zero. Like you have to
Yeah,
truly, truly be tiny. And some people are, but we
yeah,
don't sell a lot of zeros.
yeah. No, I would imagine you wouldn't.
And for a while, we were getting all of those back as exchanges for a small, like extra small is zero.
Yeah,
We're getting a lot of exchanges back for a small. And finally, I just went in and I'm like, zero,
yeah,
not 0 to 2,
yeah,
just zero.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting. Fashion is interesting. I am not, um, I've got some experience with it. I do think that there's really big opportunities for fashion on social selling, on social media, and just doing it. Um, to me, social selling is really starting to take off a lot more. We heard about it, 10 years ago. Meta
Mhm.
was touting it, and it just didn't take off. And we're starting to see it now, but I think we're starting to see it in other places other than, Reels, and it's more on YouTube Shorts and or YouTube in general, and
Instagram.
TikTok.
And there's a lot
Instagram.
on Instagram. I saw an ad on Instagram the other day, and it was this shop that the premise to this is that people really want brands they can trust
Yeah, oh
also.
yeah,
I saw this brand and they were saying there was a message, oh, we're selling everything. Today only, we're just going to sell out because we've gotten older and we have grandchildren now. We just want to spend time with our grandchildren, and we're just going to. And so they had $300 sweaters for like $40, and I'm such a sucker. I go and I ordered a sweater. I'm like, well, this is a nice sweater. And they even had a picture of some old people.
yeah,
Then I get my shipping confirmation and it's coming from China.
yeah. Oh
Like
yeah,
the actual order that I ordered for one sweater is coming all the way from China. I'm like,
yeah.
it's not just people. Maybe they are spending time with their grandchildren in China, but it wasn't the people in the picture.
No, that's a scam. I mean, it's a scam. And so, but that's why I say brands, especially, I just wrote a book and we're finishing it up and it's all about this very thing. Because today people under 45, they want to know who they're buying from and they want you to create some sort of a relationship with them. Um, certainly you got caught in a too good to be true sort of deal. $300 sweaters down to $40 or $80 is probably the sweater was probably a $50 sweater, but yeah. So but that's why social media is so powerful, because you can get on every day and you could just do a quick 1-minute video that goes a long way. um, I'll tell you this, in today's world, people your target, I don't care whether it's B2B or B2C, your target wants to consume about 7.5 hours of your content before they make a rational decision about doing business with you. And so that's why long form video, short form video, that all works together. Written content, your website, social media. And so it's really not difficult today. You just have to have the you have to have the confidence to go out and do it every day. You have to have the confidence to put that phone up and just say, here's a great example of why I created this, blah, blah, blah. This is a great example. And, I did this for women. And, you play up the empowering women piece, and you use the right hashtags, and you'll start building a following, you know. And once you build that following, then you're the face of the brand. And that's everything's going to follow along, because then they know I didn't buy from some unknown entity. I bought these from Tina.
Right.
So
That's what my friends say. My friends around here.
they say, what? I bought it from Tina?
Got it from Tina. I'm like, Tina, can you get me this shirt?
Yeah,
Whatever.
that's the way it should be. And then
No, it
they'll
is.
tell
And people
people,
will call and I'll answer the phone. I like to really handle as much of the customer service as I can, because I really want to hear from the people that are wearing the product and find out exactly how they're feeling about it.
yeah,
Um, and it's great. I love it, because also I love when they say things like, "Oh, you're a person." And I don't know if you remember that TV show Green Acres.
no.
It's Zsa Zsa Gabor. Okay. Well, there was like a guy who ran the general store, Mr. Haney, but if you got pulled over for like speeding, he would be the guy giving you the ticket. And
Oh.
that's basically me in this company.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm a big advocate, and I tell this to, I don't care how big the company is, or who the CEO is. I tell them the same thing. You should go every Friday. You're doing it differently because you're doing it in real time. But I say, go every Friday, go to your customer service group and get the 5 worst complaints, and then call those customers up. And
Oh,
a lot of CEOs don't want to do it because they don't want to get yelled at because they had problems, right? They're the worst complaints. And I said, what's the worst going to happen? They can't hurt you. They're going to yell at you. And then you smooth it over, and what you want to hear is what went wrong, because you can't fix the problem if you don't know what the problem is. It's like the people that sell on Amazon. We have brands that sell on Amazon, and they get bad reviews, and they want us to try and figure out a way to get the bad reviews taken down. And you're going, you can't get the bad reviews taken down, but you can learn from the bad reviews. Why do you want to hide the bad reviews? Why don't you read the bad reviews, figure out what went wrong in your company, and fix it? I mean,
right.
you
I
know,
like to leave my bad reviews up, because I'll get a bad review for me, is someone will say, it didn't fit well, but the quality was really good.
yeah,
Get another size.
yeah,
But I like it because they said something nice about the product.
yeah,
It just didn't fit them because they had the wrong size.
yeah. And
They'll,
then, yeah,
yeah,
and then you address you can respond to some of those customer reviews when they're like that, and say, I appreciate that. I appreciate the quality of material. Have you thought about sizing up or down?
right. No, I enjoy that part because of my previous business experience was very customer service focused.
Right.
And that was something I've learned a long time ago. It just pays to really wow your customer and over deliver. And it's a pleasure also to try and make people happy.
Yeah, I love talking to customers. We that's all really I do in this business, is just talk to clients. I get on calls and do the updates. I don't actually do the work anymore. You know,
Right.
I love um, I love what I do because I learn something every day. Every day there's a new system out there that's going to do something that we want to understand. So I love that. Um, and I love when we get great results for people. I'm a very good strategist, but I'm not the person who's going to build the ads anymore and place the ads. I've done it. I know how to do it, but I'm a great strategist. I can tell you exactly what went wrong when I look at it. So, you know, but I
Same.
love what I do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not doing, I have someone else running my ads. That's not my strength. What I really, I mean, one of the things that really inspired me before I started my business was the 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. And I heard one of his podcasts, and there were a couple of kids at Dartmouth who started a back pillow company, and then it turned into I think they ended up moving to Austin and starting a personal goods, like shampoos and soaps and things. And I'm thinking, if these boys can do this, I can do this. And it's part of the fun, the strategy of outsourcing and finding the right factories to work with. And I've been working with the same factories for several years now, but I do need to branch out. I just have a new factory that sent me some things that I just received recently, and it was so exciting to like see the quality.
Yeah.
And I just was, that's like a real thrill.
Yeah, I've been there. I believe me. I I love starting businesses. I love something new. But yeah, you can get sidetracked. I've never been able to work a 4-hour work week though, and I don't believe it.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's
I,
ever going to happen in this world. And I talk to people all the time about so I love reading books and things, and but I'm more of a pragmatist. You have to do these certain things. I mean, look, what I do, I can do from anywhere in the world, so it doesn't restrict me. We
Mhm.
can travel, we can do whatever we want, um, any time we want. But I have a great team of people. They've been with me for a long time. We have a lot of great things going on, but um, yeah, I can't work a 4-hour work week. I can sometimes I can work a 4-hour work day.
Sometimes I actually find working very soothing. So I like to have a lot of things that need my attention.
Yeah.
So I like to have my hands in a lot of pies. So I don't aspire to only work 4 hours. I just like the idea of outsourcing and working with teams and people and, kind of making it a joint effort.
Yeah. Well, you'll get to that point. I mean, nobody can do it on their own, but I am a big fan of outsourcing specific tasks and things like that. Like I would never want to own a manufacturing facility. It just that would be terrible. Um,
I agree.
we're coming out of time here, running out of time. So, uh, just any last thoughts, ideas for aspiring entrepreneurs, and how can people get in touch with you? Obviously, go to soulsistersport.com.
Yep. Soulsistersport.com. My contact information is on there. For aspiring entrepreneurs, I mean, I just say put together a plan. I mean, the thing is, when you're working for another company, you need to be bringing some sort of value to that company so that you're earning the money they're giving you. And just think of that the same way of how you do that as just a person in the world and how you can bring that value.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I am not a good employee. I would not be good working for for someone.
I try to be a good employee.
I I had to do it a couple of times. We had one business that was bought, and I had to go work for the company who bought us for 2 years, and it was rough because I just don't think the same way. When when you have a
Well, yeah,
multi.
and our time is so precious. And
Yeah,
then we have ideas and we have thoughts and standards for how we want things done. And when someone else is telling us to do things their way, sometimes there can be friction.
yeah, friction, and I used to think they were focused on the wrong thing.
Right.
So
Because sometimes they're not right.
yeah, that's right. And then a couple of years later, you find out that they're heading into bankruptcy. So anyway. Um, yeah, so it was a pleasure. I enjoyed talking to you. I love what you're doing. Best of luck to you. I think it's really going to take off. I think you're doing the right things. I think you're focused on the right things. And again, understanding who your customer is. When the more you can focus in on who your customer is, that'll make your ads work better. But social media, I think, is a great opportunity for you as well as some of those influencers. So yeah, I think you're doing a great job.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, pleasure's been all ours. All right, thanks, and everybody, soulsistersport.com. Go and check it out. And we will see you next week.
Okay.